What the
Hey there, Benders! Welcome to Versus Series Shorts, the series where I take two characters and set them against each other in open combat. Today we will pit Amon, the Equalist, against Zahir, the Anarchist. I will be observing these characters as they appear in the Legend of Korra TV series, books 1 and 3, respectively. For much of his adult life, Amon posed as a non-bender, defeating those who opposed him through hand-to-hand martial arts, though it would later be discovered that much of his success came from a sneaky use of bloodbending.
Any attack we throw at him, he'll redirect with his mind. That's how he's been able to challenge any bender.
Considering this is an examination of pure physical abilities, this will be discredited in favor of Amon. But even without his bloodbending cheating, he evaded the assaults of several benders with his graceful mastery of acrobatics, bobbing, weaving, and somersaulting away from their attacks. Not to mention his constitution was rather high, not only surviving a full blast of Mako's lightning at point-blank range, but getting up and fighting with his full force in a matter of seconds. Based on accolades presented by Zuko, Zahir was one of the best non-bending martial artists of his day.
Do you have any idea the power these criminals possess? Individually, they could take down any bender. Put them all together, they could take down the entire world.
And this was in reference to a non-airbending Zahir. Even the fact that he was kept on an isolated, mountaintop prison indicates how deadly he was, even without his use of bending. But I must admit that all of Zahir's physical abilities are based on things we have not seen in the show, though we have seen, at least to a minor level, his capabilities as a non-bending martial artist in small spurts. The issue with this is that most of it is muddled by his airbending augmentations. That all said, based on his accolades alone, I think it's enough to put him over the edge against Amon's physical capabilities. Not the strongest argument, that's true, but it's the one that makes the most sense to me. The only advantage I think Amon has would be his resilience, based on his achievements against Mako. But in terms of applied martial skill, Zahir has more clout. And if we observe Zahir's use of airbending, it's mostly an extension of his previous martial training. It's one thing to be able to airbend, but it's another thing to execute the moves of an airbender with a technical precision of a lifelong air nomad in a matter of weeks. For me, Zahir gets the edge for his physical abilities. Before he was known as Amon, he and his brother Tarlok were trained relentlessly by their father Yakone. The father trained them from a young age, hoping that they would one day challenge the Avatar who took away his bending. The basis of this training was around bloodbending, a unique bending ability among waterbenders of the Southern Water tribe. Before having children, Yakone was undisputedly the most powerful bloodbender in history, becoming the first bloodbender to use the ability without the full moon. He was surpassed only by his son, Noatak, later known by his alias, Amon. Though whether or not Amon surpassed Yakone is up for debate.
I don't know how he does it. But then again, I've never encountered a bender as strong as Noatak.
What is known for sure, however, is that Noatak mastered the art of bloodbending at the age of 14, a devastating tool he would go on to use against the benders of Republic City, even blocking their chi indefinitely, an ability not even his father achieved. Because of Amon's bloodbending mastery, it is assumed that he was a waterbending master as well, though he has no combative showings within the show. The only expression of this talent came by way of a multi-story water spout, which could only be achieved by a master-level waterbender. By contrast, Zahir's time with airbending was much shorter. Instead of a lifelong practice with the art, Zahir only interacted with airbending for a few weeks before his eventual capture. But he achieved greater breakthroughs with airbending in a shorter amount of time than Amon did with his water and bloodbending. Where Amon unlocked the secrets of psychic bloodbending over the course of an entire lifetime, Zahir unlocked the secrets of unassisted flight over the course of a fortnight. By rights, Zahir should never have been an airbender. Were it not for harmonic convergence, he would have remained as a notable non-bender, but nothing more than that. The reason he was so successful in his use of airbending, I believe, is because of his incredible non-bending martial arts and his obsessive studies of the ancient guru, Lahima. His airbending style was really an extension of his hand-to-hand martial arts, a natural augmentation. The result was a more proactive and out-of-the-box form of airbending we have not yet seen, one that resulted in an airbending choke and unassisted flight. Still, Zahir's inexperience with the bending art showed its seams when he faced against a true airbending master in Tenzin, who had a clear upper hand on the younger bender, before he was overwhelmed by the rest of the Red Lotus. Even so, Zahir was a prodigy among benders, a natural talent. The comparison between Amon and Zahir as benders is interesting from the perspective of elemental development. Both unlocked a set of unique bending abilities thought to be impossible. In this way, I'm more impressed with Zahir, who achieved this with no lifelong training. But if we're talking about combative achievements, the edge clearly goes to Amon. Zahir, like most benders, has no real answer for bloodbending, flight or no. Amon's bloodbending was only subverted on 2 occasions. One of those occasions was a surprise, as he did not properly bend Mako's finger to disable his ability to cast lightning. Later in the scene, we see when he puts forth a concentrated effort, Mako has no means to defend himself. The second occasion came by way of Korra, which I chalk up as simply being plot-induced stupidity, or Avatar Ex Machina. Unfortunately for Zahir, he has neither the ability of an avatar nor lightning bending. However, one could argue that Zahir could subvert bloodbending through his flight, too fast to be locked down by Amon's power, or achieving enough distance between himself and Amon as not to be affected. This of course is speculative, as we have not seen Amon taxed in this way. Though one could say that he did not attempt to bloodbend Korra when she was only 30 or so yards away from him. But I side with Amon's ability to overcome Zahir's flight based on his pure mastery of the art. If Zahir wants to defeat Amon, he would need to get in range. And once he does that, Amon could stop Zahir cold in his flight path, rendering him useless with bloodbending. Amon gets the edge for his bending abilities. Both Amon and Zahir were efficient, covert specialists. They both belonged to secret underground societies, Amon with the Equalist group, where he disguised himself as a non-bender looking for equality, though with ulterior motives, and Zahir with the Red Lotus, a group dedicated to dismantling the powers of the world to bring balance through anarchy. They achieved these ends by dismantling their enemies from the inside out, though they were also capable of more overt battle tactics. As fighters, Amon fought by way of misdirection, which was showcased in his overall strategies as an Equalist leader, but also by his subtle manipulation of his opponents through bloodbending. Zahir held himself under more traditional airbending tactics, with a more aggressive twist, defending and evading until he found an opening. Once that opening was found, he jumped on the counter-offensive until his enemies were defeated. One tactic Zahir may use against Amon may be similar to what he used against Korra. We don't know exactly the extent of Amon's power, and how taxing it is on him physically, but with all bending arts, it takes some form of energy. One possible tactic from Zahir would be to play a complete defensive game from the start, a game of chicken where he attempts to fly away and work at Amon until he tires himself out. Again, this is speculative, and there isn't enough solid evidence to say Amon wouldn't just lock him in a hold, but it would be a viable tactic if we assume that Amon's hold is not absolute. At the same time, Amon would be doing his best to disrupt Zahir's defensive fight maneuvers through misdirection, even through subtle manipulation. And with that, Amon would more effectively counter Zahir than Zahir could counter him by way of a tactical use of abilities. Amon gets the edge for his tactical abilities. If these two revolutionary, unique benders ever met in open conflict, who will come out on top? Let's set up this fight. So let's say it takes place in the pro-bending arena. This location was chosen for the room it provides Zahir, though with no real escape as to make this a more definitive matchup. And the water within the arena gives something for Amon to work with should he choose to water bend. The following is a hypothetical explanation of the possible outcomes. The early fight should belong to Amon. Zahir will likely take to the skies, or more appropriately, the ceiling of the pro-bending arena. But there is nothing I see stopping Amon from pulling him down without much effort. Zahir's best plan for survival is to get as far away from Amon as he possibly can, dampening the effect of Amon's bloodbending. If Zahir manages to avoid Amon's bloodbending at a distance, I could see the fight getting a little more interesting. Zahir could mount attacks from afar, flipping the pro-bending arena seats at Amon or the little disc of earth, which can, I think, be manipulated by air as well, all in the efforts to break Amon's concentration. But I only see this working for a very short time. Amon has showcased through his acrobatic ability that he can evade such attacks if Zahir attempts to do such a thing. If Amon is hindered by Zahir in any real way, he'd have to take to the water, creating a water spout to match Zahir's flight, closing the distance for his bloodbending. When in range, Amon would attempt to lock Zahir down with bloodbending, but it's possible that Zahir would attempt to take the air from Amon's lungs. If a struggle like this occurred, I would say the advantage would go to Amon, whose bloodbending is more immediate and all-consuming. Even if his breathing were hampered, he would still be able to stop Zahir, and the moment Zahir was locked in such a hold, his air choking technique would be rendered useless, as it required hand gestures, which he would no longer be able to control. Again, the mid-fight belongs to Amon by way of the same strategies. Even if Zahir can play keep away with Amon, he would eventually need to close the distance for his airbending attacks to become effective. All the while, Amon could extend his own pursuit through a water spout. I don't see this bout going to the extended reaches of the late fight. By this point, the fight would be over. Of all the scenarios, I see this likely ending in the early fight, before Zahir has the chance to effectively evade. Amon's bloodbending is too strong, too dominant of a force, for even Zahir's unique form of airbending. Zahir can be an effective fighter against many other benders, but Amon is not one of them. And that's not to knock Zahir, many benders would not stand up to Amon. That's the reason I have not used Amon in my Avatar vs series. For a long time I wasn't going to do this match at all, but the request for it came in pretty hard. To me, the victor of this match was never in question, and though it's interesting to think about the extent of Amon's power, especially against an opponent with flight, the conclusion is still definitive. And to top it off, Amon would block Zahir's bending at the end of the fight. The best bet Zahir has is to escape Amon, which he could do in an open battlefield, if he avoids the initial bloodbending assault. Otherwise, Zahir better hope he poisons Amon the same way he did Korra. After a 10-10 advantage, Amon the Equalist will be the most likely victor. Of course, this is all my opinion, based on the lore of Avatar. Do you agree that Amon would take a majority victory, or do you believe the Red Lotus agent is the most likely victor? Let me know in the comments below, or vote for who you think would win in the top right corner. And of course, peace, love, and remember, be water, my friends.